What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast about the movie Bruce Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Here's a quick synopsis. Coming off of huge success, Bruce Springsteen goes full introspective for his next album, Nebraska. The film stars Jeremy Allen White, Jeremy Strong, Odessa Young, Stephen Graham, Gabby Hoffman, Grace Gummer, Paul Walter Hauser, and David Krumholtz. Standout performances. I've been watching Jeremy Allen White for a long time now. First his lip on Shameless. I thought that performance was underrated at the time, and now finally he's getting accolades for playing Carmy and the Bear, and with his newfound fame, movies are giving him big opportunities. First with a supporting turn in The Iron Claw, and even more so with a chance to play Bruce Springsteen. And yes, he does the singing, he does the voice. I was impressed with him in this movie, but I don't believe the movie does him any favors. It should have been way more of a showcase for what the actor is capable of. For me, White is at his best when he's playing characters who are angry and frustrated, and this movie has some of that. There's a scene where Bruce drives like a madman, but that moment is in solitude. He doesn't have a moment like that with a co-star. It's hard to play internal conflict on screen in a movie, and White fares well enough, but deserves way better. Those other well-known musical biopics do a much better job of letting the leading man carry the movie. Joaquin Phoenix as Johnny Cash in Walk the Line, Jamie Foxx as Ray Charles in Ray, Paul Dano as Brian Wilson in Love and Mercy, Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody, Taron Egerton as Elton John in Rocketman, and Timothy Chalamet as Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown were all better supported by the movie they were in than Jeremy Allen White is in Deliver Me From Nowhere. I guess what I'm getting at is, yes, those actors were better than the movies they were in most of those cases, and that is the case with Jeremy Allen White in this movie. My problem with this movie is the movie itself doesn't realize how good it has it with Jeremy Allen White. Take Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, for example. That movie understood that the entire film has to be carried by Austin Butler to be successful. There is nothing else more than this performance. So they did everything to support that performance. I do not believe this movie did nearly enough to support Jeremy Allen White. White has some big movies on the way: The Mandalorian and Grogu as the voice of Rada the Hutt, son of Jabba the Hutt, Enemies with the aforementioned Austin Butler, and the much talked about sequel to The Social Network, The Social Reckoning, with Oscar winner Mikey Madison and Deliver Me From Nowhere co-star Jeremy Strong, who is taking over the role of Mark Zuckerberg from Jesse Eisenberg. I have high hopes for this. Aaron Sorkin is one of the best screenwriters of all time, and I like most of the movies he has gone on to direct. Those movies in the next few years are going to determine whether or not Jeremy Allen White becomes a movie star, because this film does not solidify him as one, because it hasn't been a huge success box office wise. It's not getting talked about nearly as much as I thought it was going to be. That being said, I do believe this is an actor who's going to be given a lot of opportunities to become a movie star. And I'm really rooting hard for him because I believe he has star potential, but more important than that, I believe he's a great actor. Well, Jeremy Allen White has used his hit show to become a leading man. Jeremy Strong has used Succession success to become a character actor in Aaron Sorkin's The Trial of the Chicago 7, James Gray's Armageddon Time, and Ali Abbasi's The Apprentice, for which he got his first ever Oscar nom for Best Supporting Actor. In Deliver Me From Nowhere, the Emmy Award winner plays Bruce Springsteen's manager, John Landau. And for me, the best part of the movie is the relationship between the two, because Strong's Landau is given the real conflict of the film. He understands where his friend is coming from, wanting to take his music in a new direction, but at the same time, he knows it would benefit everyone, including himself, for Bruce Springsteen to become more and more mainstream. This is the thing that's different about Bruce Springsteen than other musicians, is he doesn't have an evil manager who betrayed his trust. In fact, he had the opposite, someone who was looking out for him as an artist. That relationship was the best part of the movie, and whenever the film ventured elsewhere, it struggled mightily. The writer-director of Bruce Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere is Scott Cooper, whom I'm a fan of, particularly the movies Out of the Furnace, Black Mass, and Hostiles. I would describe his films as intense, and going into this movie, I thought of this as a test for him to become a more well-known director. Sadly, I don't see that being the case, and it all has to do with the structure or lack thereof of this movie. It's not building towards something. We are all anticipating. Another reason I was hopeful about Cooper directing this movie is because his first film was Crazy Heart, which saw Jeff Bridges play a fictional musician, and for it, the actor won his first ever Oscar. I'm still high on Scott Cooper as a filmmaker, but I view this film as a bit of a setback. The perception of Deliver Me to Nowhere is that its failures are because it's too much like a traditional biopic, and yes, I see all that. It's too much about the main character, and almost no one else is given proper context or purpose. But what makes it different also does the movie absolutely no favors. It's not super theatrical, there's no scene with a great speech, no one is overperforming in a fun way. What it's really lacking is a scene that defines what the movie is about. I also have to get this off of my chest. This movie wasted a great supporting cast of people who I have loved in other things. Gabby Hoffman, Stephen Graham, Mark Maron, Paul Walter Hauser. Why have these people in your movie if you're going to give them nothing to do in it? We all understand that these movies need to fixate on one guy, but the best versions of these movies have multiple great supporting performances in them. A big problem with this movie is that it's no fun whatsoever. It takes itself so seriously, and that's maybe not what most people wanted from a movie about Bruce Springsteen. And I'm far from the only person who feels this way. This movie is not that entertaining as it should be. With this cast, with this talent, with Jeremy Allen White getting this committed to the role, the final product should have been a lot better than it is. A compelling case could be made that I'm not the target audience for this movie, that maybe the real Springsteen fans love this film. I was confused by the end. How am I actually supposed to feel about the album Nebraska? Is it a career triumph or a rough patch? I think the movie is also confused. By itself, maybe they should have made a movie about his actual rise to fame. Deliver Me From Nowhere is too broad of a movie. It needed to be way more specific than it actually is. Way too much of the movie goes unsaid. Yes, the movie had good intentions. It picked a specific time in the life of Bruce Springsteen. It didn't want to do a cradle-to-grave movie because so many people hate those kinds of movies. I think in this case, I would have rather seen a cradle-to-grave movie about Bruce Springsteen. I needed to see the origin story because I had absolutely no context about what was going on screen, and the movie was isn't giving me enough information. The movie in this time period tells you that Bruce Springsteen was maybe afraid of the idea of being famous, that he was afraid of commitment, that he didn't think he was good enough to be loved by somebody. That's what the movie is telling you, but it's doing a really bad job of showing you that. And that's why I think the only thing that this movie properly contextualizes about Bruce Springsteen's life is that he had a really rock-solid relationship with his manager. Box office, Deliver Me From Nowhere did not fare well, making just $16 million its opening weekend, and I don't know if I should be surprised by that, but I am. I thought there would be far more fans of the singers who would go out and see this movie. The film cost north of $50 million, and who knows if it will even get its money back. You hear this from a lot of people over and over again, that they're just going to make these musical biopics until the end of time. Well, guess what? They're not, if the movies are not going to be successful in movie theaters. If people don't see movies about these people, they're not going to make these kinds of movies. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I like the genre when it's at its best, but I do think maybe there should be a few more years in between these kinds of movies. I mean, last year we got A Complete Unknown with Bob Dylan. I don't know that I needed a Bruce Springsteen movie right away, especially one that wasn't well thought out. At the end of the day, that really is my biggest problem with this movie. It's not that it's unwatchable, because I do think it's watchable. Jeremy Allen White is really good. Jeremy Strong is really good. The problem is it's just so average. It's boring. That's how average it is. It doesn't feel like it's taking any risk creatively. And maybe this isn't fair, but I was starting to feel a little shaky about the movie when I heard about the involvement of Bruce Springsteen in the movie. I just think when you get the best version of a movie about somebody's life, it usually doesn't involve that person, because if the person themselves are too close to the project, then it could interfere with what the movie is trying to do. Maybe this movie doesn't happen without the involvement of one Bruce Springsteen. But I do kind of think that the best movie version of the life of Bruce Springsteen probably isn't the one where Bruce Springsteen is reportedly on set all of the time. Oscar chances. At one point, Deliver Me From Nowhere felt like a major contender. The Oscars love to nominate and award actors in biopics, and Jeremy Allen White still might be nominated for Best Leading Actor, but it's no longer a sure thing, and for that I feel kind of bad for the actor, because I really do believe that Jeremy Allen White fully committed to the role and deserves praise for what he does in this movie. And I feel the exact same way about Jeremy Strong. The movie let them down. If the movie were just a bit better, they would be sure thing nominations. But right now, there are big question marks. One thing I do feel really good about at this moment is that this movie has 0% chance of getting nominated for Best Picture. This is too good of a year for movies to nominate just an average biopic like this for one of the 10 spots. If the movie does get multiple Oscar nominations, I think there will be a loud negative reaction. There will be people saying, oh, so now you're just going to nominate every actor who's in a musical biopic. I would not, for the record, be upset if Jeremy Allen White gets an Oscar nomination for Best Leading Actor, or if Jeremy Strong gets nominated for Best Supporting Actor. It's not their fault that the movie is kind of a mess outside of what they are doing. I don't see actors getting nominations for a specific movie being an admission that the movies themselves are any good. You are praising the work of the actor in them. And in this case, Jeremy Allen White does deserve praise, and so does Jeremy Strong. Another thought I have about this movie, Deliver Me From Nowhere, is that I don't know what this movie is actually interested in when it comes to Bruce Springsteen. Are you actually interested in the album Nebraska? Because you're clearly not interested in his love life. I mean, this movie just rushes through that. I don't really even want to get into it that much. I don't want to compare this movie to A Complete Unknown, but I do feel like that movie was very much interested in the mythology of Bob Dylan, who we believe him to be and who he actually is as a musician. When it comes to Deliver Me From Nowhere, I don't know what the movie is actually fascinated by when it comes to Bruce Springsteen. The flashbacks and the stuff with his father, played by Stephen Graham, in my opinion, are lazily done, and the ending of the movie is just not rewarding. My interest in this movie stemmed from the fact that I am a fan of Jeremy Allen White, and these musical biopics are usually a big test in becoming a movie star. Austin Butler has become a star in part because of the huge success of Elvis. That is not going to be the case with Deliver Me From Nowhere. Yes, I think you can watch this movie, and some people have debated just how good Jeremy Allen White is in this film. But if you have him on a list of what your issues with the movie is, I think you are completely insane. In fact, one of the only things I really did enjoy about this movie was the accent work done by Jeremy Allen White and Jeremy Strong. The performances, you could tell they were kind of trying to go for it. It's the scenes that they were in that were kind of dull. Yes, the idea of Bruce Springsteen in any way rejecting fame is really interesting, but the movie does not dive deep enough into that. And the mental health aspect is completely brushed off until the end of this movie, when it all of a sudden becomes the most important thing of the film. The longer I do this podcast and the more I watch movies, I just believe they all come down to structure. Yes, I want to see great performances. Yes, I want to watch an entertaining movie. Things have to happen in movies for them to be interesting and entertaining. But at the end of the day, the structure of these movies are going to determine how you feel about them. The best movies ever made have great structure. They know where they are going. They are building towards something. They know that the ending is going to land the plane. And this movie lacks that feeling. You don't know where it's headed, and I don't mean that in a good way. I mean that in a confused way. You're like, where are we right now in this movie? What is going on with this guy? And what, if anything, does this movie have to say about one of the most popular musicians of all time? I'm sure many people are going to walk away from Deliver Me From Nowhere and say maybe Bruce Springsteen just wasn't worthy enough to have a movie made about his life. I find that almost impossible to believe. I just don't think they made the right version of one. They had the elements. They picked the right actors to be in the movie. I even think they did pick the right kind of director. I like Scott Cooper's style, but I do think maybe this movie took itself way too seriously. The tone needed to be a bit more entertaining at times. And I don't mean this as a diss, but maybe Scott Cooper needed a co-writer when it came to Deliver Me From Nowhere. There's just too many elements to this movie. It needed to pick a lane and stick to it. I have no idea in the long haul what the reputation for this movie is going to be. I know Scott Cooper has talked about the fact that he wants to possibly make a sequel movie. I don't think that's going to be in the cards. This movie is not going to be thought of as a success. I don't know how the Oscars are going to play out, but I do know this film is not going to be a hit. I don't think it's going to be beloved in the moment, and I really don't think it's going to be beloved over time. It's just an average musical biopic. It left me, a non-super fan of the musician, wanting more, so I can only imagine what a real fan of Bruce Springsteen feels about this movie, my guess is they are also left wanting more. I'm not one of these people who believes that the genre of the musical biopic should not exist, but this movie is making me feel like we deserve a break, at least until the 4 Beatles movies directed by Sam Mendes comes out. I wanted to like and enjoy Deliver Me From Nowhere way more than I did. It doesn't do a good enough job of telling the story about this man and his music. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Next week on the podcast, I'm talking about the film A House of Dynamite, starring Idris Elba, Rebecca Ferguson, and Tracy Letts, directed by Catherine Bigelow. So tune into that and please rate, review, and subscribe.